I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, you're going to get to meet one of my favorites, Austin Lineberry. He is a custom home builder, and I mean like a super schwanky custom home builder who also partners with me in relief efforts in Western North Carolina. So if you want to hear a great story with a velour jumpsuit and learn about building and help us with relief projects and fancy houses, this is your episode. So enjoy the conversation, and I'll see you on the other side. Let me show you my favorite kind of Patriot Relief donation I got today.
Let's see it.
Envelope, piece of paper with $20.
That's awesome.
And
I love that.
Note says, in hopes this finds North Carolina people doing much, much better, praying God's grace on everyone. She sends a little $20 whenever she has one.
Yeah.
So I don't know who this sweet lady is in Pennsylvania, but like those are the dollars that change lives.
I know.
It all adds up. It's so sweet.
I love that so much.
So that's going to go to the bank when I finish up today. So since I always start recording at the very beginning because I might miss something really good. So why don't you tell the audience who you are, where you're located, and what you do in and around real estate?
Awesome. So my name is Austin Lineberry, and I am the owner and founder of New River Building Company based in Alpharetta, Georgia. So we do multi-million-dollar luxury new custom builds mostly. And we also volunteer and work with Patriot Relief in North Carolina. And that's how I met you.
So y'all have to go follow New River Build because their stuff is really, really cool and super fancy. It's way out of my league, but I love looking at it. Like everybody else, it's the beautiful house stuff that's fun to look at.
I appreciate that. It's fun to do. And it's fun to spend other people's money and be good stewards of their money as well. But we get to do some really cool stuff. So I'm very fortunate for that.
Okay, so you have to correct me. Is it Lineberry? I've been calling it Lineberry, like I pronounced all my North Carolina.
Well, there's all kinds of ways to enunciate words in North Carolina, so I just let it go. So yes, Lineberry is what we say. But
well, how does Elizabeth say it since she married into it?
The same, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only way she knows it because she married it?
That's right. Yeah, but some people say Bury too, but it's fine. We're friends. But yeah, I'm not an agent. What's that?
Salisbury, they Bury.
That's right.
We lay things down different in North Carolina than you do in Georgia.
It comes back when I drive north. So I grew up in Southwest Virginia, and as you know, but your audience does not. But as I drive north and head up the mountain, my accent starts to come back more. I've definitely lost some of it since being in Atlanta for a while.
Well, you do have fancy people down there that don't like to have accents. They even look down on some of us that have one, although they're very intrigued by the sound.
Well, Elizabeth's grandmother had the Southern drawl accent.
That's the money accent.
Yeah, it's definitely gone with the wind. It's she was very. I love Mom. God bless her. Rest in peace, Mom. Love you. So. But yeah, I'm not a real estate agent. I'm a custom home builder and renovator and do all those fun things. But in and around real estate all the time, I work with some fabulous agents in our area.
Well, and we need good builders. That's one of the things we do get asked in real estate is I don't want to buy somebody else's house. I want my own. I'm going to find some dirt and then build it. And it's strikingly hard to find a custom builder that can communicate with people and help them not feel like they don't know what's going on, because the home buyer does want to understand the house to an extent, but also to find somebody that is thoughtful in the process, because the world now is so fast and so willing to cut corners. But with a custom home, the last thing that buyer wants is a shortcut. They don't mind waiting month if it's done properly. So why is it so hard? I mean, you've seen your peers and you know that not everybody looks at building in the same way. Why is it so hard to find good builders anymore?
It's a hard sell too, Leigh. That's a great question. Times have changed. I mean, people have changed overall. COVID did a number on people in psychology, and I think we kind of joke, but it's true. HGTV has done a number on people in Amazon. So people expect things now. Like I can click a button and I get it at my door. Like, why can't why is this custom railing taking this long? Or why is it taking you that long to get oak treads? Or I just want to change from oak to hickory. Why is there such a setback? But that comes in relationship. But you're right. I think that there's been a culture shift and a mindset shift, and um, people. I've learned to even change my tone and how I relate to people. How I used to say, well, be really professional and like proper with people, but I'm just real with people now. I'm like, that's not going to work. Or I would not do that in my own home. Or if I were you, I would not do that. That is not a good idea. So I speak more direct to people than quote unquote air quotes professional, if you will. Like, so we're still polite, but you're just relatable with people. And so for me, it's a really hard sell on the front side. I rely a lot on real estate agents and designers to vet us and introduce us to folks for jobs. And I just let them talk, encourage them to call people, because you guys are our champions. You will speak well for us in the working relationship, how we treated your other clients, because a lot of people go to the bottom line. They look at the dollar. What am I getting for my dollar? But they forget about the experience and the headache and the change orders or the unapproved, unforeseen things that come out of left field. And I just don't play in that ball field. I lose a lot of jobs because I tell people exactly what the truth is and exactly what it's going to cost to build. And we're all big people here. So this is what you want to build. This is what it's going to cost. So if somebody's telling you it's $300,000 less, that's not the truth. And I can count on more than two hands the number of jobs that I've lost doing that, but it's the right thing to do. And that's my conviction and my faith. And I won't tell people what they want to hear to get a job and then unknowingly change order them unnecessarily for things that I know are going to come up.
Well, we all know there's going to be cost overruns.
Right.
I had a buyer one time that the builder said, "Oh, that's the number. I can always beat that." And I told that buyer, I'm like, "You run from a builder who promises to beat the price, because they're not even taking into account the unknowns in the supply chain that are going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months while we build this house. And they just promise to undercut." That
That's
is,
right.
that's a terrible plan. But the movie clip that I do get people to watch, and you're younger than I am, but do you remember Sleepless in Seattle? And
Uh-huh.
the scene, because Tom Hanks was an architect, and they were in the one house, and she was like, "I know we're gonna tear the whole kitchen out and start it over. You
Uh-huh.
understand?" And he was like, "We have to start this over," because she wanted to move one thing.
Right.
And I tell people to watch that, and I'm like, "You see what happened here? She threw the whole budget off. She threw the whole time frame off because of one thing that she thought was insignificant, and the architect did this and the builder did this, and
Uh-huh.
that's the most real world housing scenario I may have ever seen in a movie, except for actually, it's also a Tom Hanks movie, The Money Pit, which is
Yeah.
1983, when the real estate agent had the MLS book and he's eating his jelly donut and the jelly drops on the house that he wants to tell him about. And then she shows it to him in the candlelight so they can't
Oh,
see
well.
all the problems. Do you remember this scene? You ever
I
seen?
don't know that one. I know Sleepless in Seattle, but not Money Pit.
Okay,
No.
so you have to watch The Money Pit. It's Tom
Okay.
Hanks and Shelley Long, and they renovate a house, and
Uh-huh.
you'll cry a little bit, and you're also gonna die laughing because it's so relevant 42 years later, and your kids could almost watch it because everything in 1983 was so tame, but they'll be bored out of
Right.
their skull. So y'all
Yeah.
can watch it and laugh as a builder and builder's wife who are very intelligent people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
That's right. I look forward to it.
So there you go. So if you're watching or listening to this, go watch. I don't even like Tom Hanks, but go watch those 2 movies because they're relevant to real estate. All right. So in your building world, you showed up out of nowhere into my Patriot Relief world for watching videos and wanting to help with the build process. And you and I have talked several times about how weird it is to be between the two worlds of the house that collapses on a mountainside and then the big, beautiful, fancy, multi-million-dollar dream house. And treading between two worlds can be so tricky, but at the core of it is how it makes people feel. So, what makes you a luxury home builder willing to help somebody in a molded single wide in the mountains get something back cleaned again that's never going to be big and fancy by the world standards? What drives you into this space?
For me personally, it's my faith. I mean, candidly, I was I've got the famous West Elm couch in the house that the Lord has spoke to me many times on, but um, if I back up a little bit before Helene happened, I've taken my boys overseas to build Casas por Cristo homes, which we build a house in 3 days, which is fantastic. They have an amazing program. I've made lifelong friends that are missionaries with them, but I just think it's a deep conviction to help people, and food, water, shelter are the most basic needs. And when people get those needs met, they thrive better. And shelter is my thing. I know it. I'm good at it, but it's just this conviction where I was on the couch having coffee and it all happened. I was like, what do I do? And the call was, hey, immediately we need to take supplies and generators. But there was another weekend I was sitting there and it's like, you need to figure out how to build houses in North Carolina. And so I don't know. I really feel it's the same principle because I have this strong conviction to be a financial steward of my client's money. So if it's a $500,000 house, that's their life savings. If it's a $3.5 million house, which we have many of, it's the same principle. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and I have a higher calling and a bigger person to answer to. So we make sure we button down every dollar and cent behind the scenes. And a lot of people never see that, but for me, it's eternal equity, not necessarily equity here. And I don't know. They're just when Helene happened, it especially bothered me because of growing up in Southwest Virginia. I mean, we're all connected in the Appalachians, and it's like I just understand that culture and those people and the need and cry for help. And candidly, what in my story, having met a beautiful lady from Georgia and going down there, there's some very generous people that have been financially blessed around us that are willing to help. And so I'm like, all right, I need to get off my couch here and get to work asking for resources and putting some of those engaging thoughts and getting people to put their dollars to use elsewhere for a bigger purpose, but it's just a deep conviction, Lee. I don't know what it was for you, but for me, it just, you kind of know in your gut, they say it's in your gut and in your soul that that's what I need to do. And it's
Well,
hard. It's not
it's a
easy.
calling, and you
It is.
can
Yeah.
ignore it all you want to, but the longer you ignore it, the more it eats at you and wakes you up in the night and go sits you on your couch where you're sitting there thinking,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do? But then you learn to surrender to it and then do whatever opportunities come your way, which has been the pathway of Patriot Relief. We've said yes to a lot of different things, trying to figure out how to help as many people as possible and as many
Right.
as possible in the gaps where maybe there's not another way to serve. And that's back to those people that y'all know in your home community who want to do something and don't know where to go and how to tap in. That's a that's something needs to get solved in our world overall. I think more people want to help, but they get stymied because they don't know what to do. Or like this little envelope I got in the mail, they have been told by the world that their $20 is insufficient. But when you're a believer, you know that's not insufficient. That's the widow's two mites.
That's right.
It's the most valuable gift because when I take this gift and add it to the other gifts that have come in from people all over the country, oh, suddenly we get to rebuild a house and then we get to save a Vietnam veteran Purple Heart fella's driveway, which is the next one you get to go look at.
Yeah.
And you're going to be in love with him, by the way. He's the cutest fellow ever.
That's awesome.
But this is what adds up to that. So how do I say no to this? How do I say no to this person? Because I think they've been told no before. And I think we discovered that with some of the other volunteers that show up in the process. They wanted to dial in with an organization, but couldn't find a way to fit in.
Yeah. Another thing too is our youth and children. And I love how we allow them to plug in. So there was a weekend where we had a family come from Ohio that specifically came because we allowed their kids to volunteer. So they took their fall break to go find a service project. And I think too, when we did the food drive in Swannanoa and the toy drive over Christmas, there were people coming through the line and they said, well, they wouldn't give us gifts for our teenagers. I'm like, why not?
Right. Say yes.
They're still children. So luckily, we were prepared with headphones and nail polish and cool stuff for teens, and we ran out, which was awesome. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's the calling, right? The calling to do something beyond yourself and for a deeper purpose. I think everybody's looking for a purpose, and if I'm honest, I struggle with what is portrayed to the world. Like I have a love hate with Instagram. I'm super grateful. Like we were just published again, which is awesome and incredible. And there's this internal need to like want to like blast that out and prove myself and compete against other builders. But I hesitate because I would rather my effort go towards and thoughts and hours and minutes go towards helping these other people. So there's this internal struggle, right? So I think it's aligning purpose and intent and fulfillment with a calling. So
But it's like you and I said, that person who buys a $30,000 range hood, custom beautiful cabinetry, that purchase allows your organization and you to do the relief mission
totally.
work. And so it's all interconnected. And frankly, if you look at the research on millennials, and I'm a Gen Xer, I think you're an old millennial, right? Are you young Gen X or old millennial? Do you know where you?
I'm right in 1981. So they say technically, if you look at the chart, I'm a millennial, but I don't test the pop culture quiz for that at all.
So you're probably a young Gen Xer. But
Yes.
look at
Yeah.
these Ds, and that's our next group of buyers coming up, and frankly, our next leadership on the local level and the next face of business. The last number I saw was that 92% of them like to pick companies and suppliers based on the give back of
Mhm.
the person they're supporting. And so when you share that, it can even be, we're delighted to be featured. And part of our corporate mission is that we give back to communities after disaster. So it can be interwoven, but
Yeah.
if they're looking for a company that gives back, that might be your competitive edge that allows you to also keep giving. It's all connected. But back
You're
to those
exactly right.
kids, one of my favorite things was your wife was at one of those builds and she was standing outside of that one unit y'all were working in, putting the insulation
Mhm.
in. And she's like, they've got it
Yeah.
all themselves. And it was a really cool moment because we do underestimate how much a 13, 14, 15-year-old can do if you say, do XYZ, and here's a staple gun, and we're just going to watch. And then they did it, and they were so
They
proud
did it.
of themselves for
Yes.
getting it done. But they're capable, and they're
Totally.
still kids because when they wanted to go roll down the hill and do little TikTok dances, they did. And
Yeah.
giving them space for both to have a Christmas present for the kid who's been devastated too adds up to them being able to give back and then go roll down the hill while the person they don't really even know who's in charge of them gets to stand there and say, nothing for me to do here because y'all are great. It was so good.
That's right. I love it. I
But it
love these
also into
videos you
saying yes.
see. What's that?
It goes into saying yes.
Absolutely. I love these videos you see on Instagram, these kids, these farm kids and tractors. They're in like these huge combines and they're like 9 years old and on the comm radio talking to their dad in a different combine and just like they've done it for 30 years, you know?
I
So
mean, I
kids are,
learned driving a hay truck. I was 12 though, but it was a
yeah,
tree on the tree. So
but it's in a, yeah, I remember that. I learned to drive a stick, well, between a GMC, but a 1930 Ford, like farm truck, granny
um,
gear, muddy gear. Yeah.
with a big loose steering wheel too, I bet.
Yeah. But the youth, thinking about the youth and kind of tying a bow on that, like it's really important for us to believe in them and pour in them and give them responsibilities sooner. One of your previous podcasts, you touched on that. And I'm a huge believer in that, and also vocational education. We need more people in the trades, and you can have a very successful career in the trades. So, for those listening,
It's
encourage the
successful.
youth that direction.
Yeah, look at building trades, and for all the people who are wailing and moaning and gnashing of teeth that if you don't have illegals, you can't build houses. I'm like, well, first of all, we shouldn't be trying to have an underclass in our country, but we should be honoring craftsmen. And so if we want to have more craftsmen, then we should train more craftsmen. Seems like a logical thing to me.
Absolutely.
There's great honor in doing good work. In fact, one of our builder friends who's been so instrumental at Patriot Relief, Jeff Eichler, he does custom cabinets that are beautiful. And when you watch him work with wood, he's so thoughtful. Like, what a beautiful thing for an artistry mindset to do, that they probably think the only thing artists do is intellectual paintings and sculpture.
Right.
What if your artistic mind goes into cabinetry and trim work and designing a beautiful staircase so the buyer can change their mind about the treads and make the craftsman really unhappy? Craftsmen don't like to have their work questioned.
Yeah.
So tell us about what you see in building world. What's the next trend that's coming that you think is exciting?
The next trend that's coming that I think is exciting is actually something that you and I've touched on and worked on, the modular world and engineering space, and also affordable housing. It's huge, right? So you've got two things going on. You've got a younger population that can't afford things because real estate and homes have gotten so expensive. Scarcity is going on. And then you have an aging in place population. So you have bookends where, older parents are needing to be on property or find a solution for next generation down to help take care of them and age in place. So we have expanded from custom into the modular world and looking into those type things of how can we help with relief, with affordable housing, and with aging in place. So I'm excited about that. And I think there's a lot of technology around modular systems, building science that can all be integrated into those systems to help bring costs down, which makes things more affordable for people, more accessible. So I'm excited about that, actually.
So if you're in real estate and you're listening to this podcast or watching it and thinking, man, I need some more Leigh Brown answers in my life. Well, guess what, friends? I have a new program that is launching right now called Answers.Real Estate, where I will give you every bit of insight I have to help you grow your real estate business, help you better respond to consumers, to provide a more excellent real estate experience so that the next time you land on crazy shit in real estate, you'll have a better solution to whatever you ran into. Answers.Real Estate. There are monthly plans available. You will love it. Get your coaching. Sign up with me today.
So what do you think needs to change in the modular space to have more integration of new ideas? I mean, as I think the whole world knows, I get very passionate about how stigmatized mobile and modular and manufactured homes are, when those are very valid forms of housing that just get stigmatized because of what people think something is.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why the opportunity is in Western North Carolina and Southwest Virginia, Eastern Tennessee, and Northwest Georgia, where there is not so much looking down upon noses upon trailer houses as there is in a more suburban or exurban market. So if somebody's lost a single wide and we get to bring in a comparably valued modular that's possibly going to be more secure because of some innovations to the piers and the foundation structure, maybe we even get to change the perception of what these houses are in the different marketplaces.
And I think that's more of it. The systems and the construction is the easy part. I think it's the market adoption and people understanding it. So it's an education play. Municipalities have just done things the way they've done them for years, and they get a little complacent. And I think that educating them and changing ordinances, updating ordinances and adoption. So that's why I know that there's cities that are doing requests for proposals for affordable housing. So that's exciting to see because they're trying to think outside of the box. But I think it's an education play. So when you have a market disruptor like a natural disaster where they have to figure out solutions, I think it's a little bit easier. But what I can tell, I'm still learning about the modular and tiny space world, and have aligned myself with people definitely smarter and more experienced than I am. But that's what I see. I see it as just educating people, because there's some beautiful products out there. I mean, we're talking about replacing a mobile home with a modular home of the same size, but there are some big custom homes that are all modular. I mean, I've seen 5, 6, 7,000 square foot modular homes that you can't even tell. So the engineering and science is there. I think it's just a market adoption for that. It's not a threat to the way we've always done it.
Well, and we'll have to, and guys, if you're not following what we're doing at Patriot Relief, you can go to facebook.com/Patriot Relief, because one of the houses if we can ever get the well and septic and driveway in place, we're going to really have a beautiful modular home that's going to be able to replace a home that was destroyed by a landslide. We've also got a homeowner where the tiny house on property, which was basically a shed being used as a tiny house, will be replaced with an actual tiny house. So you can see the aesthetics are different. My concern with the need for the building is that when you go to a zoning board or to a county commission and you start talking about modulars, they immediately in their head picture a trailer park, which would be a row of single wides as long as the eye can see. And so that brings the neighbors up in arms to the microphone to say, not here. And then, of course, the not in my backyard, the NIMBYism, because they're not visualizing the reality that it has moved a long way from single wides, which themselves are the original affordable housing. But because things over time do evolve, they're missing the market.
Mm-hmm.
So considering that, and now that you're working with the modular space and looking at the necessary permits that we'll have to have in different counties, have you spotted anything that you wish the public knew to tell their planning and zoning and county commissions needs to change? Like, how do we approach this from a permitting and regulatory standpoint? Do you know yet?
I don't know fully yet, but what I would encourage people listening is to research and look, because there's actually some very cool and brilliant construction methods. Like when we look at even the way things are built and constructed, sometimes it's better, more stable, better engineered than a stick frame house down the road, believe it or not. So I think that, just to bring up the education and perception thing, educate yourself. It don't be as threatened by the thought of modular without really knowing what you're talking about. And it kind of reminds me, add to my pet peeve list, or like when you get people that sit on the HOA board that know nothing about architecture and they're on the architectural review committee. I'm like, it just drives me crazy. So I'm like, are we architects here? So, but no, it's seriously like,
No, they're
it's, there's a lot of building science behind it and engineering, and in some instances more so than a traditional house. So I think there's a future there, and there's other technologies too. Like it's not necessarily modular, but even the 3D printed houses, that's totally out of the box. And there's a lot of benefits to those from our value and resources of materials and waste and landfill waste. So I think just collectively we need to open our minds to new things.
That might be, I had not thought about that angle before, Austin, but that might be the way to go at some of these, especially the rural counties, is from the waste perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting here thinking about our western counties, and our landfills are, they had so many years taken off their lives because of the carpet and the appliances and the personal items that were destroyed by floods and landslides. And that's not even counting the lumber that is coming from all these downed trees, which is being chipped up, and the mountains of mulch are getting to be pretty entertaining to see. But if you build a house with next to no waste, that's gigantic for a community.
It's huge, yeah. And what's sad too, like if you drive around, you'll see, it's just part of it, but like a mobile home, a trailer, if they become compromised, they can deteriorate, and then people just leave them. So then that's wasteful as well. But it's interesting when you take a modular home in a controlled environment, in a facility, you can cut down on your waste. You cut down on exposure. You increase your time to build. So you're decreasing fuel and transport. So, and what's interesting too, so we have a manufacturer partner, their building standards are actually higher than, I'll take you to any national building company around. We all know all the big boys. Their building standards are significantly higher than a starter home or the national standard. Significant, night and day. So even though it's a tiny home, there's no comparison between the product.
I wish people understood that, because you have to realize, like, the modulars, they're built undercover. They're built
right
in a facility, so they're not exposed to all the weather like a stick-built house is, which is exposed all the way until it's dried in. But these ones that come out of a factory, they're tight, and they've not been as compromised, but people don't think about it because in their head, they hear modular, then they think single wide, and suddenly they're back down the rabbit hole again, which is all,
right.
like you said, it's all education. This waste factor is going to eat me up. I got to call my legislators and talk to them about this, because that might be one of the ways to get more yeses. Because it's also the aesthetics are the other thing that's going to get us a yes, as they can see the designs come through. And my brain is running out of control right now, because you just dropped like the nugget that might be
there you go
a mighty oak tree to help us with some yeses. I was having a conversation with a guy a couple of days ago who's from out of state, and he's one of the contract bidders for the relief dollars that have been allocated and which haven't been spent, which is a whole different conversation. But he was talking about how stick built is the most efficient way to do a house. And I said, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that, because you cannot tell me stick built is the most efficient way to build a house. Now, it's going to have its pros and cons, but it's not efficient. He's like, absolutely it is. And I said, you cannot do a stick built as fast as you can do a modular. Yes, you can. I said, how? He said, well, we can order in the frame kit. We can order in a truss kit. We can order in a roof kit. We can order kit. I'm like, yeah, the modular is one kit for all of that. So how exactly is yours more efficient? And he's like, well, you have to drive those things in. I was like, we have to drive the pieces in. How is that less efficient than trying to find crews and subs to come in and do this from scratch? And he's like, it just is. And it was the most frustrating conversation ever. And I didn't lose my religion while I was having my conversation with him, but it came real close.
Yeah.
You're not listening to me, dude. But I knew where he was, though. His mind was, I can get stick built approved. I can't get modular approved. It actually went back to and approvals and permissions, which have to be addressed. But also to think about the geography where we're discussing things, because sometimes it's the modular and single wide that you can get into a site where somebody wants to be. They don't necessarily want to be in a 300 tiny house subdivision, which is, of course, the proposal happening from some of these other companies from out of state. They want to get a tract of land and put a bunch of tiny homes on it and call it a neighborhood. Well, spoiler alert, that is not exactly the Appalachian culture to live in side-by-side tiny houses. Can you even imagine what kind of drama is going to ensue? It's not going to be pretty if they try to do that.
No. It will not. It will not.
Smokes the waste factor. Okay. I'm totally derailed right now because
You're all good. So I don't know how much time we have, but I could tell you my crazy story. You want to hear my crazy story?
Tell me your crazy story now, because the crazy outcome of this podcast might be that we have one of our big solutions on housing because you just accidentally dropped a solution bomb into the show. So anyway,
I hope I did.
Austin, the point of the show really is to tell people the sides of real estate they never get to see. And of course, now they're getting to see what happens when two people who really enjoy housing and mission work and like finding solutions get to brainstorm, because I think this happens every time we have a conversation. Just for the record, people, we love thinking about housing and what can be, which is super exciting. So anyway, what's your story you want to share with the audience today?
I'll do the abridged version. So that's what made me think to come on here with you. So fast forward now, I've been building 21 years. So the very first year I built, I worked for Elizabeth's dad. And he was a builder, got me in the business. So unfortunately, he was fighting cancer at the time and needed to be in the hospital and different places. And so I would work on the Nextel a lot with him. So we had this $600,000 house that was in this like up and coming neighborhood, really hot neighborhood. So 600,000 back then is probably 1.8 now. I don't know. Same neighborhood.
2.5. Easily.
Pretty big house. So I'm fresh, I'm new, not really know what's going on, learning. Buyer comes in. So this is right when things were getting a little wonky and people were getting a little crazy with mortgages, but the mortgage, they were doing risky things with mortgages, but the crash hadn't happened yet, right? So dudes walk in multiple times, but what they wanted me to do is they were going to buy the house. They didn't like the granite, they didn't like the cabinets, they didn't like this and that. So what they wanted was they were trying to negotiate with 22-year-old me with the next song, my father-in-law. Now I did have an agent that stepped in, which was great, and she helped a lot. But they wanted me to give them a credit on their closing statement for renovations for about $75,000, $80,000.
On a
And they
new
want
build?
on a new build. And I was like, guys, I don't like, I don't think that sounds right. I don't remember what I said, but let's just move forward. You can buy the house. And so they come back around again and try a different angle. And the second time they came back around, I'm like, well, my father-in-law's out of town. I would rather handle it as you buy the house, you do your renovations afterwards. Well, he brought the mortgage guy with him the second time. So you got the buyer and his mortgage guy there, which seemed really odd to me, and their behavior was odd. So they come over and they're like, okay, here's what we want to do. We still want the credit. We're going to renovate this house. We really want it. We need to make this happen. I was like, guys, I just can't do that. I talked to my father-in-law, talked to my mother-in-law. The agent was there at this time. We can't do this deal. He pulls out a wad of cash. I had never seen so much cash out of his velour jumpsuit, and slams it on the table, said, this is for you if you can make this happen.
Did he really have a velour jumpsuit on, or are you fabricating that?
He had a velour jumpsuit on, 2-piece. If I remember, it was purple. And so I was like, the way I was raised and what I taught, I smelled something coming in. It really smells awful. I was like, there's no way I can do this. But I had never seen a stack of cash that big and to that point in my life. And there's probably a lot more than I had in my checking account at 22 years old. But I think what they were trying to do, what came out after that is there was a sting that went around our local area where they were defaulting on mortgages. And I think that's what was happening, is that I don't know how it got through underwriting, but maybe the mortgage guy was involved. But what we feel like they were doing is trying to get a credit. They'll get cash at closing. They may not even make their first mortgage payment. They're defaulting. Maybe that guy had a fake name and fake paperwork. But there just wasn't enough oversight. And we feel like at the end of the day, that's what was happening. But the point of the story is, it was screaming red beacon lights to me, but it's like my gut was like at the first go round, this doesn't smell right. This doesn't seem right. And it definitely wasn't right. So, about a year later is when the mortgage crisis, things started falling off and foreclosing. So everything started unpeeling at that point, but it was crazy. That's my crazy story. Probably one of the more crazy things that's happened to me, and especially as a young person.
Did you look him up and see if he got in the FBI stings for the mortgage?
I didn't. And maybe the agent or my in-laws did at the time, but I did not. But it would not surprise me if they were part of that.
Because there was the big wax ring that happened here in Charlotte, and the closing attorney went to jail, and the lenders went to jail, and the real estate agent went to jail for things like this, where it was inflated so they could get the cash out at the top, and they were all in on it.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were wearing velour jumpsuits. Maybe that was a Georgia thing.
Maybe so.
Although I have this really bad mental image now from like a bad TV movie. Exactly what it would look like. The roll of cash, which is probably ones with the 20 on the outside.
Probably.
Did he fan it in front of you?
I didn't count it. I should have counted it. Be like, this is not enough. I pass.
No, because you'd have gone to jail for that. They'd have probably called you an accomplice if you'd gone that far. They would have sent you up the river as a 22-year-old. You'd be the easy target.
They probably would have. You're right. So,
I mean, I guess the moral of the story is if it doesn't feel right, you're probably right.
Absolutely. And there's no amount of money that's worth doing the wrong thing.
No, because money's supposed to be a tool that you use, not the center of everything.
That's right.
Which is a lesson we get to see every day doing relief work, because people we've served, they do not worship money.
They do not.
They just want a roof and keep the family together.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And maybe, just maybe, some headphones for the teenagers. So don't forget the teenagers when you're doing Christmas gifts, people.
That's exactly right. The teens were very happy. So,
Oh.
well,
All right, we're gonna have to circle up on this waste factor because it's the waste factor.
let's do it.
This is so big. All right, so if anybody wants to reach out to you, if you're one of my Georgia realtor friends and you want to find out more about New River building, or you want to find out, maybe you have questions about anything in the building process, you want to tell your kids to go into VOTEC and how do you go through that process, you want to partner up with us in Relief, there's lots of reasons that you might want to send Austin a message. So how do they find you, Austin? What's the best pathway besides your Instagram account? Nice website.
Website's www.newriver.build or at New River Building Co. on Instagram or Facebook. And my personal handle is at Lineberry, not Lineberry.
Or Lineberry.
Or Salisbury. One of those berries.
But you're like Cherville and Ruffton. You got to say it right or you lose credibility.
The Ruffton threw me off, but I will stand corrected.
Well, you want to know you from around there, then you just got to sneak up in there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming on the show, reminding people to do what's right, for giving honor to your wife's family and how they brought you into the business, because that's a reminder we all need, is that there's lots of connections out there if we just lean into them. And mostly, thank you for responding to a post that I made online several months ago and then pouring your expertise into people's lives in the way that you have and that your company has. And I'm just so grateful to call you a friend, and I'm grateful that we get to do big things together, and there's more on the way. So thank you. And all my realtor friends, help him sell some houses so he can spend more money in Western North Carolina helping out.
That's right. Yeah, thank you as well. And I consider you a dear friend, and I'm looking forward to the next few months as we do more cool stuff for people and help people. It's really awesome.
It is. It's fun. It's fun to do God's work.
It really is.
Say yes.
All right, friends. See ya.
Say something nice about Austin in the comments, hit the bell to subscribe, and most importantly, come back and see us next time.
By the way, friends, don't miss my brand new coaching program at answers.realestate, where you can have access to Leigh Brown, submit your questions, have them answered, meet like-minded professionals, have an entire library to help you build your business no matter what happens in the market. Get signed up today. I promise you'll be glad you did. So if you found value in this episode, please like and subscribe to this channel, turn on the bell, and catch another amazing episode by clicking above. Crazy Shit in Real Estate is also available in all of your normal podcast apps. So if that's where you like to hang out, go find me, click subscribe, and most importantly, leave me a review that says you think I'm awesome, my guests are awesome, or this content is just exactly what you were looking for. And then, by the way, if there's something you need, you want to learn about something, you can comment below anytime. You can also send me a direct message if you need to remain anonymous. No judgment. But anyway, I'll only judge if you forget to subscribe and click. I'll see you next time.